It's finished Brentford 1, Everton 1 on a Wednesday night down near London for the Blues to continue their 7-game unbeaten run. And I've got Warren with me, and we're just going to go over what was, I don't know, partly a game I think that many expected here, Warren, with, I wouldn't go as far as saying, bit after the Lord Mayor's show, given the intensity of that game against Man United and having to play 3 days later with not the biggest of squads, as we've probably spoken about on most of our shows this season, or certainly for maybe a few years, actually, if you look on it a little bit further than that. But Everton went there, got a point that I thought was they definitely earned at the very, very least. Against the side that are, I mean, they're difficult to predict. They're difficult to play against. They've got one of the best managers. I think I've said it millions of times. One of the best managers, I think, that you've got up and coming in football, certainly in and amongst the Premier League. Everton go down there, get a point. If you'd asked me that beforehand, I probably would have said, yeah, I think that's a decent result going there. What I've been hesitant to say is I don't want us to just this end of the season to just sort of, just go by the wayside. Everton are safe, and then you're looking forward to the summer more than that. Of course, we all are. Of course, we've seen the stadium, and we know what's coming towards the summer. Hopefully, being able to buy some players and Everton be able to regenerate what's been going on at the club for so long. It'd feel like, I'm not going to say that word that we've said so many times, and it just hasn't proved to be the case when we look like we've gotten better than we actually were. But yeah, I mean, a point away at Brentford, run keeps going, decent draw. What did you make of it all?
I felt very much like I did before the Crystal Palace game the other week. I felt that this might have been a game too far for us, and I think for me to come away with a point against relatively tough opposition, and David Moyes referenced this in his press conference. He was asked, and I thought he gave a great answer, by the way. He was asked about, do Everton aspire to be what Brentford are doing, and he came out and he said no. I've got to say no to that answer, because Everton, we want to be aiming towards the top end. And I thought it was a really good answer what he gave. And whilst I agree with his sentiments that he made in the press conference, I do feel that Brentford are a side at the moment, or it's a club at the moment, who represent one of the teams in the Premier League who have been well run. We've got a good manager, as you say, and I've got some fine players as well. And I think on their day, they can beat anyone, and they're capable of beating anyone with the players that they do have. I think the case for them is just that their inconsistency and being able to put wins where they've been drawing games, and the odd game where they've lost or conceded. I mean, I saw that stat, I don't know if you heard it tonight, that they haven't kept a clean sheet at home all season, which is quite remarkable, really. So I think they're one of those clubs that represents all the goods in football, but also are not quite consistent enough to be challenging up the top end. We're not there at the moment, and I do believe we will get there, but I thought that tonight, I just felt that we would have found it tough. And I think for me to come away with a point against a side like that is a really excellent point, Dave. And I know we'll possibly go on to talk about the big chances missed and how we could have won the game, but I felt the performance was really good. And I thought the key thing for me was we finished the game really strong. I was expecting us after 60 minutes to go a little bit like the way we did against United, where tired legs would kick in. The fact that we've got a lack of depth in the squad would counter against us. But if anything, it looked like we grew into the game, and we finished the stronger. And I think the goal, when it came, was thoroughly deserved. And I also think as well that, on another day, maybe we go and win that. It reminds me a lot of the Palace and the Brighton games, the away games. And I just think to go 7 unbeaten now is, from where we were, and also, Dave, 15 points above the relegation zone now, which I know we're quite not at that magic mark that David Moyes has said he wants us to be at with 40 points. But that Ipswich aren't going to win 5 games and catch us up. But if Ipswich have got to win 5 games and we've got to go pointless to the end of the season before they catch us, that's simply not going to happen. So all in all, I think a really brilliant point down in London. I think a really good point. Yes, it could have been a winner. Yes, we're right to be disappointed, but how great's that, being disappointed we haven't gone to Brentford and won after what we've seen in the early part of the season? I think all credit to those players yet again. I think credit to the manager, who's gone with a fantastic game plan. And I just think that it keeps this momentum going, keeps this unbeaten run going. Hopefully we can make it more, 8, 9, 10 games unbeaten, and really have a good good end to the season. But yeah, fantastic point away from home, I feel.
I agree, and I think as well it might have been a step too far. Again, I repeat that I would have taken a point tonight. Well, obviously we'll go through the game there, which probably said we should have took 3, given the chances we created there. But I was a bit surprised in terms of the team that he set up there, which there weren't many changes other than Alcaraz going in for Decore, and that was only made because his wife's in labour. Um, I was expecting that to happen anyway. I would have thought Alcaraz would get in for a start. Just a Garner Gay, James Garner, players who absolutely ran it into the floor against Man United, and it's a big ask to tell them to go in the Premier League. An hour, even excessive an hour. And Idrissa Gay certainly didn't. His levels certainly didn't drop for me. And that pays testament to what Moyes has got them drilled into doing in training. It's the physicality of this side as well, which I'm sure Sean Dyche will still be singing about with his little flag watching that game, saying, I told you these lads all followed me doing marathons every day and whatnot. But in regards to the play we have now, it's so refreshing watching us as whatever's at risk during the game. And look, right now, I mentioned at the start that a lot of people will think these are dead rubbers, and we don't want them to be that. They certainly won't be at Goodison because we need that finish, we need that end, and we need to say goodbye to the old lady in a positive manner. Away from home, though, it's a different case. That the Everton that we see away from home creates chances. It attacks with the ball on the floor. It gets it out wide. It puts crosses in, and it's an entertaining watch. And I felt that against Brentford. I thought there were two sides that were well matched for the majority, certainly first half, and the majority of it. The goal they go and score, it's quite a ridiculous one, really. I think it's a really disappointing goal to concede. They let it bounce in their own 6-yard box, and I'm not too O'Brien. I mean, we'll go to talk about it in depth a little bit, but he hasn't put a foot wrong on that particular occasion. I think he did, and then when he was trying to kick the ball pretty much on our line, when someone's, it reminded me a little bit of the goal we scored with Harry Maguire, just sort of looking around and waiting for someone else to perhaps do it, or Pickford comes and claims it or something like that. And it felt to me, wasn't like games we've played so often that you just don't see us coming back from. You just don't see anything happen. And we hadn't created enough chances at that point. And when they scored, I don't think it wasn't against the run of play, but I don't think Brentford deserved to take the lead. I don't think Brentford deserved to lead at any point in that game, let alone score. I can't recall any particular chances where you've seen Pickford have to make a save. So pretty much a remarkable goal for them to go and score, given apart from hitting the crossbar, which isn't a shot on target, of course, then there was nothing else really to do for Jordan Pickford. And then compare that to what we did, and how free-flowing football we had there going forward. I thought we were really good on the counter-attack as well. Defensively, it just feels like it comes with optimism from the centre-backs there, with Branthwaite, with Tarkowski, who I had like a big problem with before Moyes came in. Certainly just after Moyes came in, I'd say there's problems with Tarkowski, let alone being our captain. Somebody else who's completely... I think we're now in a situation where you can look at individual players here and you can count a lot of them who you see that have completely done a U-turn on their careers at the direction that they were headed. O'Brien being one there, didn't look like he get a game under... Well, he didn't get a game under Sean Dyche, really, did he? He's come in and looked like a revelation at right back. Mikalenko as well looked like we wanted rid of him. Betto. There's a lot of players we could talk about. Probably each of that starting 11, you think, with the exception of Pickford, you think, well, do you know what? If they'd have left Everton at some point this season and you hadn't got to the point of Moyes, you think, do you know what, that probably makes sense there. And that's a massive credit to them and the manager himself as well. The way we set up, I think there's a real drive in how we set these players up. There's a real intensity how he wants them to play. It is chalk and cheese to what we started seeing like 2 months ago, and going there, like you said at the start, they're going there and disappointing to take away just a point there from Brentford, who are a good mid-table side, which sadly to say is what we're trying to become at this moment in time. Like Moyes has said, he wants better than that. It's a great thing for him to say. It's something that he certainly wouldn't say in the past either. A lot of refreshing things happened, and particularly when we don't when we concede that goal. it just looked like a pretty bog standard mid-table game of football there between two sides, and it took that a little bit, I think, to get us going properly. We looked like we were in our shell a bit, I thought, in the initial early phase of the game. We're happy to pass it round, and just generally you're waiting for something to happen rather than going and make it happen yourself.
We did look like the away team very much so in that first half. Just on the goal, actually, I think I know the lads on post match and yourself on Blue Monday with Roger and Les hinted at the fact that there's a bit of a trend at the moment with the way we're conceding goals, and especially conceding goals where we're maybe 2 or 3-0 up and teams are coming back at us. I think that for me, yeah, there is a trend there, but I don't think it's necessarily something that is a massive concern, because I think we're playing well at the same time. So if we were playing poorly, it would be a massive concern for me, but we're not. We're playing quite well, and I think what it is, it's just a lapse in concentration. I mean, when they score, we're talking in the stoppage time of the first half, and I think they've been quite switched on for the first 40 odd minutes, and then it's just that lack of concentration, and it was quite a poor goal to concede. And I think O'Brien switched off, and I think no one reacted really quick enough. Lindstrom didn't react quick enough when the initial header came off the crossbar. So it was disappointing to concede that goal at that time, because whilst I agree with you, I don't think we did anything particularly front foot wise, and we didn't look like a team that were really going for it. I also thought it was quite a sensible away performance as well from Everton up until that point, and I thought we were managing the game quite well. But I think, going into the second half, as I mentioned before, the refreshing thing for me, Dave, is that there is a plan there. There is a pattern to our play, and I think that it doesn't matter now to a degree who comes in, and with the threadbare squad that is, and maybe having a smaller squad's done us a favour, because it's the same players playing the same way, and Moyes relied a lot of that on his first time around, having a small squad and lack of money and that sort of thing, and really built a togetherness and a team spirit, and maybe that's sort of happening there. But I just felt that I never felt at any point it was a poor performance. I felt that maybe we did things not as well as we could have done, but I never felt that I never felt we were a million miles away from Brentford. And to your point, I don't think that Pickford had a lot to do, really. There was never like waves of Brentford attacks. There was never waves of chance after chance for Brentford, and we were holding on. And I think that's been the case for Everton for a while. And where we talked earlier in the season about where we getting the best out of this squad of players, and are these players actually good enough? This manager's certainly getting the best out of them, more than double the best out of them, and the way they're performing. And I know we'll go on to talk about a few players later, but for me, Dave, I actually thought the back four were magnificent tonight.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think Tarkowski's been a major issue at times this season, but I certainly feel like in the last couple of games he has recovered and done a lot better. I mean, the only real instance I can think of where I feel that he's made a crucial error is the penalty he gave away against Bournemouth in the FA Cup. I think other than that, he's been particularly solid, and Branthwaite's really starting to look like the player of last season again. He's been magnificent again tonight. Thought Jake O'Brien was very competent. I think a couple of times he switched off, but again, is that just down to experience? Maybe it is, and maybe with experience and playing, out of position as well, he's liable to that at times. But again, very solid performance from him, and very intelligent performance, particularly when Ashley Young came on and he played a little bit further forward as well at times. I thought it was a really intelligent performance from him. And I've got to say, Dave, I think Michalenko's been really, really positive the last few games, and he puts in the cross for the goal, and he seems to have, it feels like he's been working on that lately as well. I think his balls into the box and his attacking and his full-back play in terms of getting forward has been a lot more improved. So I think that's a good base to work off. And in other areas of the field, I thought we had decent performances as well, which enabled us to go down there and put in a healthy performance and get a healthy result. So all in all, I fail to see the negatives in that, and I fail to see any massive reason to be overly negative. As I said, disappointed that maybe we couldn't have got that winner, and I'm sure we're going to talk about Betto and the chances he faced, but I just find it difficult to be overly negative about this Everton team at the minute in the context of where we are, and we shouldn't be going away at Brentford the way the season started and getting a result. We shouldn't be dominating Man United for 70 minutes. We shouldn't be getting results against Spurs at home. But this manager's come in and he's turned us and these players particularly into a bit of a force again and a bit of a really, quite a destructive team and quite a difficult team to beat, which is fantastic to see. And it's been really positive, and it's so great as well seeing people online and different comments from Evertonians saying they actually look forward to watching us play again. And we haven't had a lot of chance to say that, Dave, and it's great to have that again. And already I said this after the last couple of games, I'm already looking forward to West Ham, that next home game. I can't wait again to get in there and see us play. In some ways, it's great we've got these 10 days off or whatever it is, but I want to see us play as soon as possible. And it was another great performance, I think, in a lot of ways tonight.
You're right. I do think there's to emphasise that. I think I actually want to go and watch my team. I want to see us play as soon as I possibly can again. I want to see particular players. I mean, Alcaraz as well. I'm just really interested to see how he kicks on his career. What we've seen at the moment, there's no reason why you wouldn't go and buy him for 16 million or whatever it is at the end of the season. That's obviously the intention. You don't get a player on loan and agree a deal like that unless you're going to go and do it. Obviously, the counter argument to that is if they're absolutely not good enough and you've taken the loan for a reason rather than trying to buy him in the first place. And obviously, it's a financial reason that we haven't gone and bought him yet. So it looks, because he looks like he's really starting his career with us in a positive way. Look, it's very easy to get carried away. He went and scored his first goal in his third game, I think it was, at Palace. He's he's really enthusiastic in terms of he desperately wants to get involved in everything that goes on that pitch, and I love that. I think that's something that we've lacked a lot. Somebody who, I wouldn't say he leads the way, but he'll give an example to others what they should effectively be putting into matches themselves, if you get what I mean. He's happy to be all over the place. He's quick. He knows he's got. I think he's really intelligent as well when he receives the ball. I think he knows where to lay it off. He knows when to move with it. He knows when he's looking for a forward pass. And to me, him coming in seems a bit of a balance to me in that attacking formation that we generally get. And I think it's interesting that, and I think I mentioned this the other day on Monday, that you see other players start to get probably angry with themselves, probably a lesser term to say this, but you look at Decore coming in and playing like the best of Decore we saw against Man United. I don't think there's no coincidence there that that's happened, because he's got a player there breathing down his neck in Alcaraz. I know they play completely different kind of roles, but in terms of position, they're very similar in terms of what Moyes would want from that slightly deeper than 10 role. It's quite a peculiar place that he likes those players to be, I think. And when you see that from Alcaraz tonight, I felt that he was desperate to get involved in everything, absolutely everything, when we're moving forward. It seems to me too that he has, I might be going a little bit too far with this, but the goal he set up for Betto at Crystal Palace there, he comes across to me as a player who, he seems to like to build relationships with others in and around him on the pitch, and it seemed that way with Betto. It just seems to be that they like linking up with each other. There's a real enjoyment of how Everton players are starting to play as well, and this is all unusual. This is new territory to us all. I think a lot of us you'd be forgiven for getting all this. The way Everton can be good, Everton can be a good side, Everton can be a side that's good to watch. It's all because it's happened so quickly that you sort of shaking the cobwebs off your eyes, really, that what you've seen in the recent past. But he seems to be able to spearhead games for us as well. And we've got the ability to play a 4-3-3. And I'm getting carried away with myself there saying I'm going to go and play 4-3-3 when all of our players are fit there. But you've got the intention there to do so. I think it's not too difficult for Moyes to shift with that as well, to revert to back to what he wants to see, much more solid midfield performance, because you've got the two garners behind anybody who's in front of them, and I think that's essential to the foundation of how we go and play. And I felt that today, and to pay tribute to both of those lads must have been absolutely knackered starting that today. And Moyes has gone, and I think what I'd be shouting to my players if I was a manager is, listen, you've got 10 days off after this. Go and give absolutely everything you've got there. And I think that's why getting a point down there is much more much more of a point in many ways than it could possibly be, without obviously getting the 3, because of how Everton conducted themselves. And you speak about players there. I mean, the interesting thing to be about Betto, and I want to get a little bit about Harrison as well shortly, and I'll try and stick away from the um, the negativity that's been in and around them. But I think he proved tonight with his opportunities to cross the ball, certainly that's why he's probably not longed for an Everton career. But with Beto, I actually found it really interesting when he misses that initial chance when he tries to round the goalkeeper. I put on my Twitter, I think he's got a little bit too far ahead of himself trying to do that, because he was in the exact physical shape as he's been for the goals he's scored so far, which is just slotting it into the bottom corner, just knock it past the goalkeeper and it's a goal. With that, I thought he was well in the position to do so, but then he tries to take it around the goalkeeper, and I was thinking, do you know what, mate? Steady on a little bit. We know you've got to look like a goal scorer. You've looked like you can be a decent Premier League striker. A little bit of naivety there, perhaps, but for him to carry on as well, he got knocked on his feet. He was trying to get up, and he gets back on the ball and creates the opportunity for himself there. And I think when I see him he move onto the pitch, his body language, everything about him has changed my mind towards so many other facets of Everton, because he's that kind of player that we've always wanted. And look, we've said it so many times. We've said it since Everton were invented back over the century ago, that what you want to see are players absolutely fighting for everything he can possibly get, a scrap for everything he possibly get. And I think he probably epitomises that to the way we are these days. And he's been able to do that in the shape of what, 8 weeks, 9 weeks since the manager's come back in. That's no coincidence whatsoever. But do you let him off for missed opportunities like that, or are you going to be sitting at home absolutely seething that he didn't put? Well, he should have put the second one away. Well, let's face it, he probably should have put both of them away.
I think we all know with a better quality striker, Romelu Lukaku 5-6 years ago, whenever it was he played for us, if he gets them chances, it's in the back of the net because he was a quality striker, quality finisher. We know that there's certain things in Betto's game that he's always going to lack compared to players like Lukaku and like some of the top strikers in the league. I think the thing for me with him is that, yes, very frustrating when he missed them 2 opportunities. I actually think the third one he had in the second half was a very, very good save. If you watch it again, the keeper makes a really good save to it. And I think he did a really good thing better where he opened his body a lot more on that third attempt and he tried to get it into the corner. And I think on another day that goes in the back of the net, but I think the keeper did quite well on that one. The first 2, he goes the wrong side when he's trying to take it round the keeper on the first one. And the second one, I just think touch it to the side and create an angle for yourself, and he doesn't. He goes too straight. But you asked me the question there, do I let him off? And to be honest, Dave, yeah, I do, because I think that our target should be a better striker in the summer, and if we can get hold of one. They're very difficult to get hold of, but if we can get a quality striker in, and if we can get someone who's a better quality than Betto, we should be looking to do that, especially if we want to climb up the table and usher in this new era and in this new ground, the way David Moyes has been talking about this week. We absolutely need to be getting better quality players than Betto. But the thing for me is, Dave, does that mean that I want him out of Everton? Does that mean that I want him out of our team? Absolutely not, because I think he's still very effective. And I think, like I said, on another day, he maybe scores 1 or 2 a day again tonight, like he has been doing recently. Do you know the biggest thing for me, Dave? The biggest thing for me is he never hid tonight. He was up and he was challenging and he was putting himself there. He could have gone into a shell after missing them opportunities and really was down on himself, and he never shone away. He was there, he was committed, he was still trying to make things happen. And I actually thought again at times, like you referenced there, his link-up play with Alcaraz at times was very, very good, and he held the ball up a lot better, particularly in the second half for me. But how many times down the years have we talked about in our recent history players who go missing, players who don't want to be there? Yes, you need more than just being there and being involved to climb up the table and to be higher than where we are positioned now. I get all that and I understand that. But this is a player who never hid for me. He was there right the way from minute 1 to the final whistle. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think there's a lot of character involved in the lad. And I think that's probably why he's been scoring the way he has recently. yes, he does lack certain things, but I think the commentator I was watching tonight made a fantastic point when he was at Udinese. He had Gerard Deulofeu and Doggy either side of him, two very rapid, quick players. I think if he's got that at Everton, he maybe frees him up to find them spaces a little bit more. He's had to, in a way, do a lot of the hard work himself. So whilst, yes, I'm very frustrated with the two opportunities he's missed, and with a better quality striker, we're 2-0 and we're cruising, I think there's still a lot to be said for his character tonight. And I'm not going to go down that road, Dave, that I've seen a few comments tonight where, oh, that's the real Betto, that's the Betto we know and love. Look, he's done phenomenal the last few games, and he's been finishing really well too. I think on another night, that's a couple of goals for him. It hasn't worked out for him tonight, but you know what? Come a week Saturday, if we still got no fit strikers and he's the only one, I'm happy with him in the starting lineup. And I think, again, he will do everything he can to score against West Ham and, you know, the games we've got coming up. So, yes, poor with his finishing at times, but I tend to want to let him off tonight as a one-off. I think he's been magnificent in the last few games, and I think his all-round play again, other than the goals, was actually quite decent again tonight. So, yeah, free pass for me. But as a collective, we probably need to be, we probably shouldn't be having to rely on just him to score the goals. We probably all need to be chipping in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think
So,
that's the main thing that you're hoping for as well with that. One is that Calvert-Lewin might well never play for Everton again, but when he's back fit, which might only be with a few games left, depends how he goes on there with his rest and getting back to fitness. I still think that, well, many of our listeners can tell us there, can't he? Do you think that you put Betto in ahead of him? And I think the majority would say yes. And
I would.
yeah, okay, maybe that's a knee jerk thing to say because he's obviously been scoring goals and Calvert-Lewin's been out of the side. But I think the mentality we've got towards him now has completely changed for me, because you'd almost say yes in a jokingly sort of way, in a sarcastic way, because of how poor you thought Calvert-Lewin has been for us. But in fact, if you look at the way they've both been as players for Everton, Calvert-Lewin, yes, we know he's completely fallen from the promising young striker that we had, who was on the verge of being a regular for England as a number 9. That nonetheless, that doesn't mean he wasn't an important or isn't an important player for us, because he generally was the only striker we had. And people would say that when he's gone out injured, as much as people weren't wanting him at the club, or they weren't wanting him as Everton's number 9, he's all we had before you'd even give Betto a kick of the ball, or properly give him a kick of the ball, rather than 15, 20 minutes at every game. And I think that's more credit to Betto for that than anybody else, really, because it's interesting how things, and funny how things work out in football, isn't it? Because I bet you David Moyes, behind closed doors, would say, yeah, what are we going to do here? Because all we have is Betto. I think you can, I don't know, I mean, I might be doing him a disservice here, but he's been quite calm in his response to when he's been asked about Betto. And I think that's quite savvy, the way in which he's approaching that, because it'd be very easy to say, oh, this lad has got quality. I always knew he'd have that. He'd come good. He just needed more opportunities, because it's very easy to sell himself, Moyes, as saying, look, I've come in and completely changed how this lad plays, how he conducts himself, how everybody can get the best out of him. I've come in and done that. I don't think Moyes has indicated that whatsoever. He's simply he's let him play, and I think that's what happens with a lot of football players, is that it's technicalities all the time. We're on a game like that, aren't we? Everywhere you look, it's tactics, it's things like that. I think it's a good old-fashioned give the lad a chance kind of thing, and things can just fall in line, and they have done for him. And like I say, I think more people would be wanting him to start rather than Calvert-Lewin, which is it's astonishing, isn't it, really, when you think back to when we first got him, in the first couple of games we saw him, we thought, how and why on earth have we gone and signed this lad? And what's Thelwell doing? I think a little bit of humble pie will be going towards him, or should be going towards Kevin Thelwell, for going and spending the amount we did, because he's been a big part of how we've changed the run of form into the run of form we've got. He's been essential. I would go as far as saying the goals he scored, the contributions he's put in terms of his physical prowess. And I think I can't remember which centre back it was, saying, it was openly admitted, it's horrible to play against someone like that. who can just shove the body in the way between the ball and them. All traditional centre half play, and he's able to do that. And I think it's important to focus on that as opposed to, like you said there, people saying, "Look at those glorious chances he's missed there." Any striker has finished them, which is true, like you mentioned there. But um, it's not for the want of trying. And like you say, that is something that I think goes by the wayside in football these days. Is when you see certain performances, you think that somebody's done that because they're not trying as hard as they can. They're not putting forward the performance that they necessarily want to, given that there's nothing that's giving them that enthusiasm in and around them. And, you could probably forgive a lot of our players, certainly under Dice. Certainly, Jake O'Brien's a really good example, I think, as well, where I think he come out in his interview and said, I just needed the chance. I didn't get a chance, and I just wanted the chance. Obviously, that's not verbatim for them to say that, but you can see that these are human beings more than anything else. Warren,
Yeah.
we're all like that in any walk of our lives. I mean, where I work now at the BBC here, I'll feel a hell of a lot better and don't tell anyone. I'll be putting more effort in if people continue to encourage me for the job which they all do here. Everyone's fantastic. But no finer points on that. But just in general, as a human being, I think that's a natural way to be. If you're spoken to in a positive manner, you're going to react in a positive way. And I feel that that's the simplicity about what we see from Betto. Before we finish up, I mean, there are various players who wear flagging there. And, Jack Harrison, I think that he's proven that he's not going to be an Everton player. But the irony is he probably will still be a Premier League player because he obviously goes back to Leeds, who look like they're going to get promoted as well. Having said what I just have there, he's somebody I would have thought would have got given a bigger response. Or would you say that it's just not in his game? He's just not at the level you need in the position that he is. Because the thing that wrecked my head tonight the most were 3 corners that he took. And the worst of them all was when he put it into the side netting. And I'm like, that, given the way we play, given set pieces is one of our main attributes. You've got a professional footballer who can't put the ball in the box. That was infuriating to me. And people will say, well, he played in a decent game. He played well in certain games. But look, how often do you see him playing well for Everton there? And I didn't want to sort of dig someone out, but I am with him. And that's why I'm thinking that, referring back to what you said about going forward here and what you're looking at to get as alternatives to what we have already, you want to go and get a better striker. You want to go and get a better fullback maybe, with Michalenko, who sort of fell off the cliff a little bit, but he's obviously restored what we seen him play like, which was one of our players of the season last season, wasn't it? With him, there's lads that you look at now, which I'm starting to do towards the end of the season with just less than a dozen games to go. Or I think, right, there's a position there that I want changing. There's somebody else who I want that. And I think the fact that he's getting starts there, I'm excited to see McNeil come back, which shouldn't be too far away, and see what Moyes can get out of those players there. But is there any part of that side that you've seen there that you wouldn't want to keep? I guess it's a really early question to say there with the games we have left and Goodison and end of the season, but there's not too many that I'm looking at and I think, do you know what? I'd probably get rid of him and bring somebody else in. Obviously, we don't know who Everton are going to try and sign and how much money we'll have specifically. But there's lads there that I look and think, Betto's one of them, obviously. Idrissa Gueye, 34 years old, and he looks like a spring chicken. James Garner as well, I think he's always had the talent there, but he just needs to give him a little bit more time to flourish and not be injured, obviously. There's lads there that I've thought I'd happily get rid of him. But there's so many I'm looking at now and thinking, do you know what? At the very least, he can do a job.
We need to move away from being players who are just there to do a job, like what you've just mentioned. I mean, I'll use Jack Harrison.
What I mean by that is, as a squad player, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
So
no, of course.
You can get a quality, decent, like Betto's probably prime example there. He's on the bench. If you go and get somebody not
real quality,
I don't think you have to go too much further. No offense to him, you don't have to go too much further to find somebody who is better than him. I think that's quite right for me to say it that way.
Well, I'll use Jack Harrison as an example because
Okay.
I actually didn't think he was that bad tonight, but I also agree with you that he didn't do anything. You don't look at him and go, there's an Everton player for the future. And I think this is where the next step in Everton's progression will come, is that we want to move away from the likes of Jack. And I say this with all, not to put the lad down or not to, criticise his, because I actually think under Moyes as well, I think he's had improvement in his performances, and I think he's been a lot better. A lot better than certainly he was prior to Moyes coming in. But for Everton to get where, I used the example earlier of Moyes saying about how he wants to sign these quality players, and he said before, hasn't he, wants to bring in the quality that's worthy of the new stadium. And unfortunately, Jack Harrison isn't in that standard. However, where Everton are at the moment, do I think Jack Harrison did okay tonight? Yeah, I did. Did I think he did all right at the weekend? I actually think he's been okay, but there's going to come a time when okay is not good enough. We need to, break that glass ceiling and improve on that. But for here and now, and for what here and now is, I actually didn't think he was too bad. And I also, touching on the midfield there, like what you did, I actually thought James Garner was really impressive tonight for me. Anyway, some people might disagree with that, but what I liked about his game tonight, there was a moment in the second half where the ball had gone backwards. I think Garner was involved in a little few of the plays, and the ball had gone to Tarkowski, and he just sort of cut across Tarkowski to take the ball from him and then drive with the ball forward. What we've used to been seeing earlier on the season is Tarkowski getting that ball and playing a diagonal straight away, bypassing the likes of Idrissa Gueye and bypassing the likes of James Garner. But James Garner was coming deeper tonight to try and get that ball, and I think that's something we missed in the early part of the season. Someone who was willing to link the defence and the attack together, and I think that allowed the likes of Alcaraz a bit more forward, and it gave a little bit more space to the likes of Harrison and Lindstrom at times. So I think James Garner doing that type of thing, and I don't necessarily think James Garner's the finished article either, and necessarily what we need going forward. But to your point, as a player who can be in around the squad and can help us get to where we want to get to, I don't see any reason why James Garner can't be involved in that. But imagine if we've got a couple of quick wingers there who have got a bit of something about them. James Garner picks that up and he's got that out ball every time.
Yeah.
You put James Garner in a team where, when we used to have the likes of Baines and Pienaar, and I know I hate harping back to it because I know we do this sort of nostalgia trip that we go on, but James Garner in the middle there, who can just link that play and get it wide to someone who can do that job and really pin fullbacks backwards, and a little bit of quality in the final third, which, as much as I appreciate the hard work that Harrison and Lindstrom have done, for me, that's what we lack. So to have someone like that eventually will be great. But going back to the game tonight, I thought that's what he did very well. I thought Idrissa Gueye was Idrissa Gueye at times, did what he used to do. But it was interesting to see Moyes bring him off, and he doesn't quite trust De Bruyne yet, does he, for a full start? But I think he's done fine when he come on again tonight. And Ashley Young, I thought as well. I think the Ashley Young role that we've seen of late, this coming off the bench on like the 60th, 70th minute, is really suiting us, because he's just there to influence and not have to be a pivotal part of the team, which is what you want from a 39-year-old at this stage in his career. So, look, as I say, Dave, I think you made a great point there in the fact the likes of McNeil, I'd love to see what Moyes is going to do with the likes of him and a few others who are due to come back as well. But where we are at the moment, Moyes is getting a brilliant tune out of this squad. He is making them difficult to beat. And I think we're actually raising our game under him as well at the moment. And I'm excited to see, and let's be excited. We haven't been excited for years. Let's be excited to see what the potential might be when these players come back, and the players we may add in the summer. Moyes again, I don't know if you've seen his post-match comments tonight about coming back to Everton. TNT have asked him after the match, I think something along the lines of, about being back, and he's come out and he said, if it wasn't for Everton, I probably wouldn't have come back. I love this club. We've got an exciting future to look forward to, and I can't wait to sort of build a squad and bring better players in. Again, and we've commented on this, me and you, quite a big statement from Moyes that he's not used to saying those sorts of things. We're not used to hearing, especially from a transfer point of view, him saying such big statements like that. So I just think the way we're going at the minute, 7 unbeaten, as I said, looking forward to playing West Ham in 10 days' time. We've got that 10 days break that we're all going to be counting down, and we can't wait to get back into Goodison again. The club's in a good place at the minute, and there's a lot of positivity around the club, and long may it continue, because we've been starved a bit, and I think tonight was just another game in the season which has added to that positivity and that momentum. And like I said, Dave, long may it continue.
Yeah, I think that's an ideal way of putting it there, mate. Yeah, you go and get a point where you probably think you deserve 3. For us to talk about the positivity from a game like that, quite a rarity, certainly for us anyway. So I think it's an appropriate way to take stock of how we've done since Moyes come back, as we have a break for these lads who probably own the. I don't know if they're going to. I heard somebody might be going for warm weather.
UAE or something, isn't it? Yeah, the United Arab Emirates, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, which clubs tend to do these days. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, you come back, got a home game, you've got these, half a dozen games, 7 games left to cherish when we're playing at Goodison as well. And on the road, we look like more than comfortable, more than capable to go and get points away from home as well. So as much as David Moyes won't say it, I've said I'm happy to declare that Everton are going to be a Premier League club.
No, we're safe. We're safe.
Oh, mate, it'd be absolutely ridiculous if Everton got relegated.
It would have to be some sort of catastrophic, momentous, unbelievable run of form from Ipswich and Leicester, and us to lose every game of the season for it to happen. Yeah. And they've got to win 5 games. I don't think they've won 5 games up to this point. No. So it's not happening. I think if you're looking at, I know Opta always do these relegation percentages, don't they? I think we're something like 0.04 at the minute, and rightly so. It's not happening. So I know we're not quite at the magical point mark that they say you need to stay up in the league, but what are we on now? 32, is it? So yeah. We needed 34 to stay up the other year. So one more win, I think, guarantees us, if it's not guaranteed us already. So I don't think we've got anything to worry about in that respect.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. And I think just to add to that, I think Moyes, like he said, I think to overemphasise what he said, really, that he doesn't want Everton to be that side. He doesn't want Everton to be a side like that. And there's no reason when we're sitting here talking about Everton are safe, without the shouting, Everton are safe. He'll want more from that, and that encourages me as well. And we mentioned at the start, to go full circle, you're wanting to see Everton again. You're wanting to watch your team. You want to enjoy your team playing. I think Moyes will go all the way with that right into the end of that last day of the season, that Southampton game, that we have a Goodison before we say goodbye to it. I think Moyes will be staying at exactly how the nature of this side looks like it is now. He won't be stopping.
No.
And it's nice to see him have that sort of bit between his teeth now, back at Everton, and like I said, he looks rejuvenised as the Everton boss. But we'll leave it there. That has been your instant reaction to Everton's draw at Brentford. Like we say, there's a 10-day break before Everton come back, and they play against West Ham in another game back at Goodison Park. But we've got bagfuls of stuff coming up. We've got loads of things, bit of a surprise in terms of stuff that Les has done, which you'll hear across the days going up to when we prepare for the game against West Ham. Warren, you've got weekly tomorrow with Peter McFarlane as well, haven't you?
Yep.
And we've got mailbag. We've got all the usual stuff. So obviously, as I always say, the Blue Room never stops. And thanks to everyone for listening to us, enjoying our content. And like we always say, leave us a like, leave us your comments, reply as well. Get in touch with each of us. We're happy to have a debate if it's nice. If it's not, then we'll ignore you. Well, apart from me, I just tend to talk to anyone who says anything about me. But my DMs are always open. I think I've always said. But yeah, anyway, do get in touch with us. Keep speaking to us, and thanks very much for listening. Up the toffees.